All right, so welcome to another one for Al Cuerpo Boxing, which means to the body. So let's get with it. Let's talk some boxing. On this one, I want to talk about the Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Oh, I should say Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, out of respect. Uh, this is a good fight. I don't recall, I'm not sure exactly what weight this is going to be at, but that's kind of like what I want to talk about in this video is about the weights. Okay, so if we go back a bit, we need no introduction about, Chris, the gentleman Eubank, and the destroyer, Nigel Benn. All right. Both who fought each other, right? Initially won by where, Chris Eubank had beat him at middleweight by stoppage or by knockout, if I recall. I don't know if it was a TKO or KO, but anyways, that was a nice win for Eubank. And then they had a rematch at super middleweight, which was a draw. At any rate, both fathers, right? That being, Eubank Senior and Nigel Benn, they are two division champions, right? Middleweight and super middleweight. And so, I guess as far as the sons go, oh, by the way, before I lose train of thought here, let's give some credit to what the Benn and Eubank business did for UK boxing, and that has now crossed over to the sons, right? The lineage of those names, because that's where we are today. Originally, this fight between Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn was going to happen, but Conor Benn had failed some or had some adverse findings for some tests, and so that fight was canceled. Who knows why that happened? Who knows? Maybe industry just wanted to still build the fight. That would be stupid if they did it because of the making up some drug tests. But whatever. For me, I think Chris Eubank Jr. has a lot of merit and common sense talking points in that the Eubank family are really the A sides in this legacy or this feud. We need to be honest. They are the A sides, okay? And Chris Eubank Jr. has put in more work himself than Conor Benn has in the game, okay? And I'll be specific. It doesn't matter if it was a close fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Billy Joe Saunders. That was long ago. Or even let's say Chris Eubank Jr.'s win against what was the guy's name that the other gypsy counterpart that unfortunately had to retire into boxing. I forgot his name. But anyways, the wins, or I guess the prime peak of Chris Eubank was when he fought at 168 pounds. His win over Arthur Abraham, right, former champion, doesn't matter if it was for an IBO belt. His win also against James DeGale, former champion, former gold Olympian, if I'm not mistaken. Those wins, and of course his loss to George Groves. But guys, those two wins from and remember that Chris Eubank Jr. also at 168 pounds was the first guy to stop Avni Yildirim, a Yildirim who nobody knew about when he was going to fight Canelo Alvarez, or I remember Andre Durrell. He had to fight Yildirim, right? And that's what gave the fight between Durrell and Benavidez. But I remember Benavidez was always saying that he was the mandatory or he deserved the shot against Avni Yildirim or whatever. But anyways, Chris Eubank Jr. had dibs. He was the first guy to have dibs and an impressive knockout that he had on Yildirim. I think it was in the third round. Just too much for Avni Yildirim, Chris Eubank Jr. And again, guys, this was the prime or peak optimal Chris Eubank Jr. All right. So with that being said, Chris Eubank Jr. already had those accolades way before Conor Benn even came into the game, and that's what I think the Eubank family wants the fans to acknowledge that they've always been the A side. They're the ones that should call the stipulations. And maybe it's awkward. Maybe it's awkward. Of course, we all know that Eubank Jr. is bigger than Conor Benn, but whatever, guys. I mean, guys are gonna be bigger than others in the game, right? we've got David Benavidez beating guys at lower weights, and he, of course, is now the new yo-yo weight king, if you will, because he wants to go and fight Surdo Ramirez, which is 190 pounds. But I guess what I'm trying to connect the dots and correlate that Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. they fought at 160 and they fought at 160, so it is possible that Conor Benn he technically could easily fight at 168 pounds if he truly believes he's better than Chris Eubank Jr. Now that's up to you guys if you guys agree if that's a fair fight or not. I think it's fair. I think that's what the Eubank family has been insinuating, that in everything, Conor Benn should really be meeting Chris Eubank Jr. at 168 pounds or nothing less than 164 pounds, right? And that's why Chris Eubank Sr. is always talking about, making 160 is too difficult for Chris Eubank Jr. And again, rightfully so, man. Chris Eubank Jr. has more experience. He has the accolade fighting at 168 pounds. He has 2 wins over former champions with Arthur Abraham and Chris DeGale, right? So did I say Chris DeGale or just DeGale in general? So those 2 wins and those accomplishments alone is why I think Conor Benn should meet what's his name, Chris Eubank Jr. at the 168 pound limit. And again, it's debatable if you guys think that's fair or not. I think it's fair, man. I just want to see good fights. That's the best when we saw Chris Eubank Jr. And of course, not having to shave so much weight to make the scale means that Conor Benn would benefit also at making 168 pounds. Because again, if Conor Benn is the real deal with punching power, moving up in weight, if he can carry that power, then it's also going to be good for him showing up at 168 pounds. And I think Conor Benn probably walks around about 170 pounds, let's say, if you guys want to say, or maybe 175, I don't know. But Conor Benn, or who knows, maybe let's say a catch weight of 166 pounds. Is that fair? 166? We shall see. And you know what? Something's weird because I know Carl Froch had said that Chris Eubank Jr. No, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. I'm going off topic here. I think Carl Froch was talking about Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford, in that, Alvarez is probably like 14 stone, which is more than like about 190 pounds plus, which I don't think is the case. I don't think Canelo blows up that much in weight at his 168-pound fights. But remember, this is Carl Froch saying that. Carl Froch might disclosing how much he was gaining in weight when he fought at 168 pounds. So I'm not really sure if that looks good on Froch, but whatever. If you can make the weight, then I guess that more power to you. But I don't think Canelo goes in at 14 stone when he's fighting at 168 pounds. So, anyways, man, back to Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. I do want to see this fight. I hope the fight happens at a reasonable weight class. Hopefully, there's no more adverse findings from either two guys. But without a doubt, guys, without a doubt, Chris Eubank Jr. is a big A side to Conor Benn. Okay, unfortunately, Conor Benn hasn't done enough, like his father, Nigel Benn. So I really do agree in what many fans say. I say, and me personally, I think, and regardless of the losses that Chris Eubank Jr. had with Billy Joe Saunders, or the losses that he had against when he fought against Liam Smith, right? Because he did redeem himself with a stoppage win himself. Okay, so it doesn't matter if he has those losses. I still think that it's more 70-30 to the Eubank Jr. Or to the Eubank name. That's just the reality of it. If you guys want to agree with that, let me know what you guys think in the comments. But that's kind of the reason why these always been hard negotiations between the Eubank name and the Benn name. And of course, you've always had promoters that want to downplay the Eubank family legacy. Chris Eubank is always justifying his role, what he brought to the game in the UK, what economic value he brought for Sky Sports or Matchroom, or that being even Queensberry Promotions. So I always respect Chris Eubank, because Chris Eubank's very intellectual, very intelligent guy. He actually seems kind of like an Al Heyman, that he wants to let the public know true value of an athlete in a sports industry. Okay, so anyways, that's what I have on this one, guys. Let me know what you guys think on the whole Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn fiasco. I'll catch you guys on the next one for another one on Al cuerpo boxing, which means to the body. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.